Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Time for yet another show. Time for yet another DLCC press release, as it happens. They're going like crazy. They must be enjoying the publicity they're getting from us. Or they may have found out that this show exists or something like that. I think it has nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's just that they are taking good advice. And so Jeremy Freiberger will be very happy. LOLGOP will be very happy. All the people, Bobby Bigwheel, Charles Gaba, all the people doing the right thing out there promoting the funding of the races down the Democratic ballot. This morning, just another announcement. DLCC announces Michigan target races and an additional $500,000 investment to defend the Democratic trifecta. So how do you like that? There are new spotlight candidates unveiled, and this too will be, I guess they'll be pouring it on there, as I think we've wrapped up. Have we wrapped up all the primaries? Maybe there's one more state yet to go. I don't know. But at any rate, various House races, state legislative House races spotlighted here in this press release. It's rather long. It's a good long list, which is good news also. It means they're targeting a lot of districts and running competitively in all sorts of areas of Michigan. And of course, running through the list would mean running through attempts at pronunciation, and it's not always that easy. But what do we have here? Can I give you a number here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How do you like these numbers so far? 11, 12, 13. They're all in order. So that's it. I just wanted to tell you some numbers. And, they're in order 1 through 13. How did you like them? Ordinarily at this point, there's some thunder and lightning, and I go, But the only thunder and lightning I have is the horror dramatic music. 13 wonderful state legislative districts, despite the fact that in a minor key it made it sound like it wasn't wonderful, but it was. So there you go. How do you like that? I like the news, and let's see. So everybody else should be very happy. It is Wednesday, and it's the Wednesday after Labor Day, which means two things. Well, several things, but the two that I'm going to spotlight are, one, Greg Dworkin will be back with us for the first time this week because Monday was Labor Day, and that brings me to number 2, which is that now that it's after Labor Day, everybody's paying attention, or they're supposed to be paying attention. That means when you go to a diner, you have to know what's going on in case you are interviewed by the media. But you're only going to be interviewed by the media if you're a MAGA guy, so I guess we can just go unmolested to our diners. They are not interested in who we are and what we're doing and how we're feeling. That's actually the subject, as it happens, of Jen Sorensen's cartoon currently, well, for me anyway, maybe it's switched over with the top of the hour, but top of the list over at Daily Kos. A interesting, good cartoon pointing out that, reporters just don't know what to make of the fact that it turns out that vast swaths of the Midwest are really full of normies who just want to be able to get along with their neighbors and would like government to help them and like normal people rather than rude, abrasive MAGA types, and they just don't know what to do about it. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. I recommend the cartoon to you, and I guess probably I should click on it and bookmark it and all that stuff so that I can share it with Scott, and you can all pick up on it and see what's going on over in cartoon world, because, they usually have a finger on the pulse. All right, lots of other things happening that we need to catch up on, and one of them I desperately wanted to include in yesterday's news roundup, but we got carried away, as we often do, with some of the other crazy stories. I do want to get to it because people are now talking about it. It would have been great to get it on yesterday and have everybody say, I heard about that first on. You wouldn't have. I was reading someone else's reporting. But Jacob Wall is still alive, and he's probably only about 12. But yes, he's still alive. Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman. these guys, I know we've called their names several times before on the show. I was trying to explain at home, like, what? I can't believe these guys are still doing things. I don't understand why they're not in jail somewhere. These guys are the worst Republican dirty trickster recidivists, I think, out there. Just in terms of the number of times they've been caught. They're also terrible at what they do. But it's a little bit depressing, not because they get away with so many things, but just it's very difficult to tell people to get up and go to work every day when these two guys, I don't think have they had jobs? I don't know what they do for income besides steal from people that they sucker, but very often their scams don't even have a financial bent to them. I don't know how they operate, but I guess there are, evil billionaires who are willing to fund their operations. Well, they're in trouble again. This time they went with something, I guess they got in trouble because they went with a scam that targeted business and taking money away from, rich people who want to invest it and keep it without being taxed or whatever it is. And that makes the authorities mad. They occasionally get caught after the fact when they do things like pay for robocalls in important battleground states that target minority voters and tell them either that if you vote by mail, either it won't work or you'll be arrested if you have any outstanding warrants, or, remember to come out and vote on Wednesday, things like that. And they occasionally get caught. And I guess they get slapped on the wrist as opposed to put in prison because they just move on to the next scam. Anyway, we can read through the details of it just to remind you that they're still alive and that they're still scam artists. And I just can't believe what they get away with. But Greg Dworkin probably has a roundup of, regular news like you might find from reading the newspaper or turning on the television, as opposed to listening to your neighbor say, this guy, he's such a jerk. I can't wait to tell you all about it. But there's all sorts of stories like that. We're ready to sort through them. Mark Robinson back in the news, and apparently, I guess the morning chatter about him is, well, his story is another for the annals of the weird, and it's, what can I tell you? It's crazy. All right, well, Greg tells me that, I guess I don't know why we would not be on the air. Have I had any thumbs up from Justice on things today? He says everything is cool, right? And that is today. Well, I can't tell you why Greg thinks there's no show, but there is. So I don't know. I'll have to hold on while I type him a message. Don't know why you can't hear it. No other complaints so far, though. All right. Any of the rest of you not hearing this? Well, that won't do us any good at all, will it? Okay, Justice says everything looks good. Greg says we're on, but is it just starting? 9 minutes late? Wow. All right. Well, I anticipate more complaints. I was wondering why he wasn't chiming in on some of these things. He was going to let me read the whole Jacob Wall, Jack Berkman story, which I guess I could have spent time on. Anyway, Mark Robinson, MAGA GOP candidate for governor in North Carolina, current lieutenant governor, is going to upset some people. And the chatter is that his latest problem, scandal, whatever, may not only sink his own candidacy, but might even put North Carolina in play for Democrats from the top of the ballot on down, and maybe even loosen control of the state legislature at some level. It's just that bad. Apparently, Mark Robinson, firebrand evangelical yahoo that he is, anti-LGBTQ, I guess a little bit less anti-L than we once thought, because Mark Robinson, apparently a frequent visitor, as they said, a regular visitor to a porn shop throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, according to the people who worked there. But I mean, regular in the sense that he showed up every day, sometimes 5 days a week, and not to rent videos and go home and stop bothering everybody, but a 5-day-a-week patron at the peep show booths that they maintain there for unknown reasons. And It just seems kind of crazy and strange. And it was very odd. And the people at the porn shop pointing out, for as anti-gay as he is now, he apparently had a little bit less problem with lesbians than he professes to have now, because that was apparently one of his favorite things among his favorite things to do at the shop. I guess the other ones, well, we won't list them all, but you can imagine. He vehemently denies all of this. By the way, huge points to the New York Magazine. I think New York Magazine headline writers and social media staff who say, yes, he vehemently denies having been a 5-day-a-week patron at the porn shop, but he also vehemently denies the Holocaust. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. He's a denier. That's what he's into. And he objected very strongly to being called a regular patron of the porn shop. And I would like to acknowledge that and accommodate him. He should be remembered as one of the very weird patrons of this particular porn shop, and probably any porn shop that he went to. What can I tell you? Maybe he's a vampire, sensitive to light, and wanted to be in a windowless environment and couldn't find a casino. Not really sure what was driving the whole thing, but apparently collapsing the entire Republican ticket in North Carolina, at least for the last couple of days. I don't know. There's still room in the MAGA mind for just saying, yeah, I'm evangelical, and I think it's really cool that guys are misogynist and love porn. So, they can still come to that conclusion, I guess. It's rattling things in the race. All right, well, we're way behind somehow, and I think it's a Connecticut-specific problem, but Greg Dworkin is here, and now there's no problems with respect to Connecticut, in my view. Good morning, Greg.
Hey, good morning. So
Hey.
I was listening on Network's radio feed, and you got started at 9:09 for some reason.
Well, I
the
was
other
tired.
show ran over, and I didn't hear Woody Guthrie singing till about 5 after. And
Woody
I don't
was
get
also
it,
tired.
but that's usually my cue to, okay, it's time.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, everybody else gives me thumbs up. No reported outages, and so, tune in, apparently. The tune in player has a lag, but, yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it, but why would I?
just work
And
here,
who cares? Ultimately, you're here now.
I was listening, and you were just going over some of your favorite numbers, the
Yes.
count.
1.
Yeah, exactly.
2,
And I said, you know what, maybe
for
it's time to
instance.
call in.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was looking
That
at
could have
is
been
when
it.
I use Skype,
Oh, yeah.
I can see when you sign in.
Oh.
And you weren't
Yeah.
signed in until
I
just
wasn't.
now.
Well, I was, but,
I know. So,
and yet I
there's-
wasn't.
There's some weird space-time continuum,
Nope.
where Spock has a beard and we're in an alternate universe, and I don't really understand it. But here we are. So, hi.
Hi,
It's
how
after
are
Labor
you?
Day, and
Yes.
now is when the election really heats up.
Right. The stream was not paying attention, but now that it knows that it's after Labor Day, it will
Don't cross
pay
the
attention.
streams.
There's clearly something wrong with it, but okay. Well, not for others, and that's important. We can sacrifice, you and I, hearing what the hell's going on in the show.
We can.
And then just jump in.
Right. And
Good.
so you and I, us political junkies, us Abby normals, have been following all this stuff for all this time. But now the normies get to sign in and
Yes.
pay attention to what's going on. So let's
Normies
talk
have
about the
signed
state
into
of
the
race
chat.
today.
Okay.
All right.
Which state?
So let's start with.
Porn Carolina.
No, I don't want to start with
Okay.
Porn Carolina because
North
I'm going
Carolina.
to save that for later. But there's a lot of North Carolina stories that are coming up. But
There
so
sure
let's look
are.
at the polling first before we get there.
He likes
Well, we
it
got
for the
RFK.
stories.
We've got weird mailers that don't involve Mark Robinson. We have Mark Robinson, of course. North Carolina.
I
Just
deny
a
that.
fascinating thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He denies everything.
Right.
He denies being Mark Robinson. So Nate Cohn starts off today in his subscriber-only newsletter, That Tilt, which I subscribe to because I'm a New York Times
We are
subscriber.
lucky.
Despite Armando telling me to give it up, I never have. My hometown paper. As groups have shifted, has it become a normal election? Unusual demographic patterns are fading, but there's still some differences from the 2020 race. So that's, worth looking at.
All right.
What do we know? We know that the race has shifted about 8 points in favor of Harris. Not that Harris is leading by 8 points, but Biden was trailing. She no longer is trailing. She's ahead by 3.
All right.
And by anywhere from, depending upon who you believe, 8 to -1 in the swing states. We'll get to that. But one of the main points that Nate Cohn points out is that the generational divide is back. What happened when Biden sat down and Harris stood up, along with teacher Tim Walz, Coach Walz, he of the lunchroom monitor fame, came onto the scene, is that young voters got back in the game.
All right.
High-quality polls, he writes, over the last month, Vice President Harris leads Trump by an average of 20 points among the youngest reported demographic cohort, whether that be 18 to 29 or 18 to 34 in any given poll.
Okay.
Older voters have barely edged at all toward Ms. Harris. But they were already favoring the Democrats. Oddly enough, the oldest voters didn't have the same, I'm a grumpy old Republican lean that they often do. So Harris and Biden were doing better than they normally do. So in that sense, it's still not a normal election, but the kids are coming back.
Well, that's good.
Coming back big.
That's great. We welcome them back. They did a great job the last couple times around. We were very impressed with their stick-to-itiveness, even as they were getting older, and so that you would predict that they would stick around. But then the new guys coming in are excited and enthusiastic about voting too.
Right, and the thing is, those new folks, the ones that sign up just now, the ones that sign up since Harris, stood up as leader of the team, the ones who wind up being not counted by the polls. They're not likely voters. They never voted before.
Right, true. Yeah, that's the issue with the model, but okay.
Right, so you're not going to see them. So if Harris is tied or ahead by 3, and then you have the voters that they're not counting, it may well be that this year is the year that they undercount Democratic votes, not that they undercount Trump votes.
Yes, and I'm sure, though, that the Republicans will accept that at face value and not accuse us of stuffing the ballot box with bamboo-built stealth airplane votes in suitcases or whatever.
Right. In the past month of high-quality polls, Ms. Harris, because it's New York Times, Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump.
I say. Let me put my monocle on. Go on.
Yeah. So, pip-pip and all that. So, 78-14 lead among black voters for Harris, 52-41 lead among Hispanic voters in the past month of high-quality polls. While this is certainly closer to typical, normal isn't quite the right term. Mr. Trump's tallies today, 14% support among black voters and 41% among Hispanic voters, would still represent the highest level of backing a Republican presidential candidate since the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. That's, by the way, one of the reasons I don't believe it. It's also possible, he writes, that the polls are overestimating Trump's strength, or many of Trump's black and Hispanic supporters simply won't turn out to vote. That's certainly possible.
Okay.
But it's becoming conceivable Trump will post some of the better results, and so we'll have to see. The other thing that's happened is the engagement gap is fading. Used to be Republicans are way more engaged in the election and excited about voting than Democrats since the new ticket, opposite, and Democrats have taken the lead there. So those are the main points that Nate Cohn brings up, and then he points out how the averages have changed. Current margin, for example, Harris +3. Nationally, that's a 6-point improvement since she took over. Wisconsin is Harris +2. It's a 6-point improvement. Michigan, Harris +2 on average. That's a 7-point improvement for Michigan.
All right.
Pennsylvania's closest, with the Harris leading by less than 1. And that's a 6-point improvement in Pennsylvania for Harris. Even Georgia, where Trump is ahead by less than 1, that's a 6-point improvement for Harris. Harris also has improved in North Carolina and Arizona by 6 points. In this particular average that Nate Cohn is citing, she only trails in Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona by less than 1. She leads everywhere else. And so they've rebooted the polling average page in the New York Times, post-Kennedy, post-Biden. They can now track the latest election polls, and it's all good. And that's where Harris has the 3-point lead. And, just the most interesting one to me is North Carolina, where their polling averages shows it tied.
Okay. Well,
basically,
that is
as
always
Mondo
interesting.
pointed out on Twitter today, everybody talks about Pennsylvania being the most important state. If Harris wins North Carolina, the election's over.
Okay, let's go do that. I mean, I'd like the election to be over.
Because North Carolina has a smaller black population. It doesn't have the same metropolitan areas as Georgia. It's much less likely to turn blue than Georgia. If North Carolina turns blue, she's doing well everywhere.
Yeah, it's been done, but it's been a couple of years.
It's hard.
It's a very close one. It's always tantalizingly within reach, but it does sometimes slip. Unlike New Jersey and Republicans, they always think, "Oh no, this is the year for New Jersey and Republicans."
Right, and it never is.
But I mean, Obama, I think, took North Carolina at least once, if not twice, as I recall. But I'm not positive about that. But it always seems like it's within reach. And of course, statewide office, they occasionally, like right now, elect Democratic governors. Though I guess New Jersey occasionally elects Republican governors, and that's why they keep thinking. But presidential race, I don't know when the last time it worked out for them on the Republican side in the presidential in New Jersey. I lived there and I don't know, which means it's 50 years, I guess.
Well, so Dante Cini is one of my favorite analysts. He is the head of the American Communities Organization, which looks at various issues based on rural versus urban versus suburban, et cetera.
Okay.
Very sharp guy. And he tweeted this morning when CNN posted their swing polls, which we'll go over in a minute. He said, this is probably the first election cycle where almost every set of new polls leaves me more confused, not less.
Oh, okay.
Which is true, because these polls are all over the
it.
place. Again, they're not picking up new voters. They're not picking up younger voters. They're not picking up voters they assume aren't going to vote but probably will. So, take all of it with a grain of salt, but it is after Labor Day, and this is when you have to start paying attention. So CNN this morning, SSRS polling. Wisconsin, Harris +6.
All right.
Michigan, Harris +5.
All right. I'll just take those electoral votes right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you go by these electoral votes, she wins. Georgia, Harris +1.
Yeah,
Nevada, Harris +1.
I'll take that.
Pennsylvania tied. Arizona, Trump +5.
Arizona, Trump +5. Oh.
It's the only one.
I don't think that's right.
And I don't think that's right. And I'll tell you something else that's not right. They're giving us the senatorial races in these 5 states.
Okay.
In
That'll tell us something
Wisconsin,
about Arizona.
Tammy Baldwin's up by 6.
That's
in
expected.
Michigan, Elise Slotkin's up by 6.
Good.
In Nevada, Jackie Rosen's up by 10.
Well, see? Okay.
In Arizona, Gallego is up by 3. I think he's up by more than that.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
here's the real key that something's off
Carrie
here.
Lake is not going to win. Yeah?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, God, I hope not. Pennsylvania.
All right.
What?
That's Dave McCormick, the Republican carpetbagger from Connecticut, versus
All right.
a very solid Bob Casey, who has double-digit leads in most of the poll. They have
right.
it tied.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean.
And you look at that and go, okay, that means that she's winning in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, Casey. Well, how long has there been a Casey like in politics in Pennsylvania? That too is like 50 years.
I think it goes back to the Lees of Virginia.
Maybe. Like, holy cow. All right, but this guy is from Connecticut, and we love Connecticut here. But
yeah, but only because we send carpetbaggers everywhere.
Yeah, well.
Because this is where the hedge funds guys live, so that's why. Among his 17 homes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, are any of them outside of Connecticut? Probably, right?
Probably, but if you have if you're on
None
Wall
are in
Street,
Pennsylvania,
you're working
I
in
bet.
New York City and in Manhattan, you have your country home in Connecticut.
Yeah. I wonder where.
It's just a thing.
He may have bought something in the Poconos to pretend he lives there.
Right. Meanwhile, Morning Consult, Bloomberg, not the greatest poll, but here it is, also out this morning.
All right.
Wisconsin, Harris +8. Pennsylvania, Harris +5. Nevada, Harris +2.
Yeah.
If this is getting boring, let me know.
No.
Nevada, Harris +2. Georgia, Harris +2. Michigan, Harris +2. Arizona, Harris +2. North
keep
Carolina
saying it.
tied.
All right. Now that may be true.
Right. But you have to note the timing of these polls. For example, this one is likely voters August 23rd through 26th.
August. Okay.
All right, it's already a week
already.
old. It's not after Labor Day.
Right. I mean,
And likely
they're
voters
wearing
don't
white.
do registrants. I'm just saying. So we're in good shape. The election isn't over, but when you put everything together, the shifts that Nate Cohen said of 6 to 8 points toward Harris, the somewhat older polls showing Harris tied or in the lead in the swing states, you can look at this and say, okay, it's a tied race, tight as a tick, yada yada yada. But you got to look at the movement, not the poll numbers. You got to look at when the polls were done, and then step back and say, okay, so here's what's really going on.
All right, let's do that.
All right. First of all, these pollsters, the big boys, the smart guys, they're going to go in the field yesterday. They're going to wait for the day after Labor Day. They're going to start their polling.
Okay.
And we're not going to hear about those results until about Friday.
Well,
So Friday over the weekend, Monday, that's when you look at the polls and say, okay, that's where we stand post-Labor Day.
Okay.
Because post-Labor Day releases of polls that were polled pre-Labor Day aren't really post-Labor Day polls.
That's true. Everyone is paying attention post-Labor Day, but the results are not post-Labor Day.
Correct.
Okay. So you want to pay attention.
So where does it stand? Well, let me go with this superb
Later.
piece from David Lurie
All right.
from Public Notice, right? And the headline says it all. It's a picture of Sean Fain, the UAW guy, greeting Kamala Harris in Pittsburgh. No,
All right.
No, this isn't Sean Fain. This is some other union guy that looks like him. I know it's not Sean Fain because he's not wearing a red shirt that says Trump's a scam.
All right.
And
Okay.
the title is Kamala Harris is cutting off Trump's political oxygen.
Excellent. You should
And
cut off his
presumably
real
that
oxygen.
happened.
Okay, forget the political. I think just go right for the regular oxygen and cut that off as well. There's no harm in doing that. All right, so pay attention after Labor Day, but don't pay attention to the polls until all of your whites come back from the dry cleaner to be put away for the fall. That's the new guideline. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. And it's here on Netroots Radio, and everybody else knew it. We're still trying to figure out why Greg's stream would be behind, but everybody else seemed to hear. So there's 5 minutes of the show with me saying, "No, I'm here." What? Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? We were here. So I don't know. I haven't explained it yet. Can't think of anything. So, all right. How about news then?
How about news?
All right.
So this story, which I thought was so good from David Lurie, Kamala Harris is cutting off Trump's political oxygen, and the subheading is, she's also not taking the bait from the press.
How so, we might wonder.
Well,
or how not so.
She's done something that none of Donald Trump's adversaries have done since 2016. She's turned off his political oxygen by refusing to engage with his manufactured spectacles of insults and taunts, or with the often wholly substance-free issues that preoccupy the press.
Okay.
And the perfect example was Thursday's CNN interview.
Perfect example. How so?
Which,
what do we mean by this?
I don't think I've spoken to you since that interview.
No, because, Friday you would have been off, and then something, and then people started paying attention.
Yeah, but on the day that they started paying attention, I decided not to do a show.
Yeah, right. Well, we needed to let people go pay attention.
Right.
Not don't pay attention to me.
As
not
of last
the man
Thursday's
behind the
CNN
curtain.
interview, Harris and her running mate, Tip Waltz, made clear she's unwilling to let the press or Trump himself set the agenda. That was the moment
like
where
a long
Dana
time
Bash
ago.
decided she was going to ask about Trump saying that she's not really black or she just turned black or whatever, the way she phrased it.
Just like you've been saying right off the bat, to ask her, you get a chance to ask her a question about herself, and the question is always, what do you think of Trump?
Yeah, what do you think of what Trump said?
Yeah,
she
nothing,
said, same old playbook, and Dana Bash was nonplussed. She was, put off.
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute, you're not going to address this? And Harris said,
Yeah.
It was great.
I'm sure it was tempting, too, I see that it went well, and yet I'm still there. And I would have said, yeah, I know, but she's trained and she knows what to do. Just say, no, that's dumb. Get on. Now, what's next?
Well, and so Harris's refusal to engage with Trump on his terms represents a break from how normal people do it.
Yeah.
Can
I
you
would have slipped
imagine
up.
if he turned and said, little Marco Rubio, and Marco Rubio had said, same old insults. And, what a different way to respond.
Somehow.
Now, nothing Jeb Bush could have done would have made him exciting.
That's right. Jim, please clap.
Right. You can't fix that.
Please clap. That's the end of him. Yeah. That's
the end of
stuck.
him, but he did that to himself.
Yeah. Right. Well, it was the Dean scream of Republican primaries. Please clap. Holy cow.
So David Lurie says, for years, Trump has made an art of luring his opponents to wrestle with him in the mud.
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. And never get down.
I feel like he doesn't know what he's doing, but yeah.
Because you can't win and the pig likes it.
Basically. Okay, right. So she passes on that, and it was really surprising watching how, what do you mean you're not going to address that? And I mean, it's so obvious to everyone else, and Dana Bash is sitting here saying, how can you not engage in this totally ridiculous thing? And, well, he said you're not black. Yeah, well, he did say that. Now, do you have any questions?
I saw somebody suggest that when the debate comes up, which is going to be in 6 days.
Yeah.
This coming Tuesday.
By the way, it's 2 weeks to sentencing, but go on.
Yeah. So what Harris should do, is the suggestion, is at the very beginning of the debate say, let me explain what you're going to see. You're going to see a fire hose of lies.
An opening argument.
Trump is going to lie so often. My opponent is going to lie so often, you're not even going to have time to write it down. Therefore, I will not be responding to anything and everything that he says. I'll answer the questions that the moderator asks, and I'll talk to the audience. Him, I'll ignore.
All right. Don't fail to claim your rebuttal time.
He won't lose his temper over that.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind not being the center of attention.
This is good, by the way. That would be sort of a trial practitioner's opening argument, telling you exactly what you're going to see.
Yes, exactly.
And
she's been known to be a
prosecute this case. So that's a good one. And and by the way, you say, well, I'll take the rebuttal time that's given to me, but if I don't rebut what he says, kiss my ass. It was stupid. I want to use the time for real things. And I bet you'd all appreciate that, quite honestly, especially if, being asked to rebut whether or not I'm black, that's not happening.
Right. So this article goes back to the debate with Hillary Clinton. Access Hollywood tape comes out, and Trump responds by having a bunch of women who accused Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct in the front row of the debate. Remember that?
Yes, right.
And then he stalks Clinton on the stage.
Yeah.
And again, 10 years retrospect is remember when George W. Bush just did a double take when Al Gore straight into his space on the stage.
Yeah.
Had Clinton done that instead of just kept talking, might have been a better response. So this is only because these are the things Trump does. And when you step back and look at it in that sense, the Arlington debacle where at Arlington National Cemetery,
yes,
Trump beclowns himself by disrespecting the military and set up the Gold Star families themselves to be part of a political stunt that he was trying to pull with his campaign showing video. So in no way, shape, or form was it just a coincidence. He was trying to say, this is an event I staged, and Harris didn't show up, and therefore she hates the military. It backfired, of course, because all it did is get John McCain's son to say, I don't want to have any part of this loser.
Yeah.
You're getting to the point where I'm no longer an independent. I'm going to be a Democrat, and I'm going to support Harris. That, in fact, happened.
Good
and it was a direct
John
result
McCain.
of Arlington. My point, though, is that the whole Arlington thing that Trump tried to set up was a similar stunt to having the women who accused Bill Clinton of sexual misconduct in the first row of the debate. He was trying to set this up before the debate so that during the debate he could say, you were responsible for killing all those people in Afghanistan. Everybody in Afghanistan that ever died is your fault. That's what he was trying to do. It didn't work. It won't work. But you have to put that in context in terms of where that was coming from and why did he even do that? And why did he do it now?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I get like why.
It's not Memorial Day.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was, although the thing he was doing was supposedly, I guess, the third anniversary of this particular attack.
But the reason he was doing it is he wanted something he could use in the debate.
That's a good explanation, because what does he care about that attack? He doesn't. But had it been successful or even just mostly ignored, he could still have showed up with the families. And because there is a little bit of that play out there already. They did try and fail right in the mix of his getting bashed for this stuff. His campaign was putting out word, well, this was an important anniversary and I was there for it. And where were Harris and Walz? This very well known, this is like, remember the Maine level, remember the Alamo level, memorial service. And it wasn't. I mean, they deserved memorial services, true, but it wasn't like it wasn't like not showing up to any labor events on Labor Day, for instance.
Right. I mean, it's an important anniversary for the families, but the event itself was completely staged in an area where it's forbidden to play politics.
Yes, that's
Trump, of course, got caught doing it, and so now he said, okay, well, maybe it was the fault of the Gold Star family. Never mind. I'm going to actually have the Gold Star families say that they invited me, and so I'll get them all to say that Harris murdered my family. And,
they'll do me that favor
completely and totally smells like
tank.
A Chris Lucivita swift boat operation. And part of the problem is that they brought Corey Lewandowski on board, and somebody, without mentioning any names,
how did we not get to
got
this?
rough with a female employee there who was just trying to stick to the rules. Interestingly, when I spoke to somebody, I spoke to a reporter who said, look, Lewandowski was there.
Yeah.
NPR knows
he does this all the time.
Who it was and what the incident was all about. How come nobody's saying anything?
I am puzzled by that.
I mean, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to suggest that it was Lewandowski? And this reporter said, the funny thing is, they're all thugs, so you can't assume it's Lewandowski.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Maybe there's a new thug rising that we don't yet know the name of, but it's a bit surprising that they haven't gotten around to saying who was involved in this, and the name is clearly known to someone.
Well, you step back as a Democrat and you say, okay, you're covering this up. You're not doing the leaked emails.
Yes.
What is going on here? Why is Trump getting this kind of preferential treatment?
That is on
and that's changing a little bit because people are talking about it, and some of the stuff is leaking out little by little. Not the emails yet, but Marcy Wheeler wrote a very nice post about why you shouldn't release them even if you had them, because basically you don't want to aid and abet Iran and any bad actor who might be responsible for this, even assuming it's real, which you don't know yet.
Okay. Well, it's a reason not to do it.
Okay, fine. There's no reason to cover up what's going on in Arlington, particularly when Trump himself is first saying, I have exonerating video, which I'll release, which of course he hasn't released yet. He's going to release it when he releases his taxes.
Yeah.
And Melania's immigration status. But
2 weeks.
At the same time, now, a week later or however long it was, He's saying, well, the event never happened. The whole media made it up.
Well, all right. Like the Holocaust.
Really? Were you not there? Did you make that part up? Did you release
yes,
a
no.
campaign video? Did you make that part up?
Yes, no.
What about the part that you said you were going to release exonerating information? Did you make that part up?
Totally.
Now suddenly
exonerated.
it didn't happen?
I mean, the man forged electoral college votes. There's nothing. Yeah,
well, see,
nothing
what I'm trying to
surprises me
say
now.
is the reason that this stuff isn't sticking is that his unfavorables keep rising because of it. Harris and Walz's favorables keep rising despite these lascivita attacks. The swift voting isn't working because you can't make these attacks from a position of everybody already hates you.
I see.
You have to be in a position of at least give me the benefit of the doubt, make it neutral, make it so that at least I get you to listen. You know, I can make the pitch to Jake Tapper. I know he'll give me a hearing. You have to be able to do stuff like that. When you can't, your attacks don't work. And the only thing that's happening is that Walz and Harris have actually become, since they started attacking them, have become more popular, a lot more popular, like 17 points more popular. These attacks simply are not working.
You know,
how do you know? I don't know the results of the election yet, but I do know the favorable, unfavorable popularity of the candidates.
Yeah.
And Vance and Trump are unpopular, and Walz and Harris are very popular.
Yeah. This will not register with Trump. Trump believes his polls are going up, which at one point they were. But his most current comments on things is, the last time he spoke publicly, I got indicted. Who gets indicted? Their polls go up. I got indicted. They say I got indicted, but my polls went up. You don't go up when you're indicted. It was weird. It started to sound like he was pretending he hadn't been indicted, but.
Right. So, what Lori writes is when a showman like Trump is no longer the center of attention, he turns into the most pathetic of Hollywood creatures, a has-been.
Oh, my.
Gloria Swanson, Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
With her, that's it declaration. That's it. I'm not doing this with you, Dana Bash.
I guess.
Harris left Trump standing alone in the pit, covered in mud, nobody to wrestle.
When does he get the weird plastic surgery that makes him look like a lion? Does that happen?
I don't know.
Okay, because that's usually that's the way Hollywood careers fly off the cliff these days. Hey, how come everybody keeps getting the plastic surgery from those surgeons and make everybody look like cats?
Well,
what's happening here?
Let's just say if you ever played Elden Ring, you know how that ends. And usually it's badly for the guy who wants to look like a lion.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
But
the editor will know what you're talking about.
The whole point here
I think. Yes.
that Lori's making is that Harris isn't playing by your rules.
Yeah.
She's not playing by Trump's rules. She doesn't
right.
have to give interviews. She doesn't have to talk to the media. People now understand that the media are sort of in the tank for Trump, because they sort of prefer the clicks and the attention. And so they don't necessarily think the media's neutral. And if the media's not neutral, there's nothing wrong with ignoring them.
Okay.
It's just a huge shift.
Well, good. Well, it's about time. They really have fallen down on the job like 10 years ago. And so people are beginning to take notice. It's absolutely widespread, widely held normie view that they don't understand what they can see with their own two eyes what Trump is doing. They just read endless coverage about, gosh, Biden's so old that he can't hold it together anymore. Trump never really could throughout the whole thing, and now he's the only one left standing that is babbling incoherently. That was kind of the case always, and they don't see it reported. Here's the clip you played me. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you saying he makes sense? Worse, why are you making it sound like he made sense when everybody can see that he didn't? And I don't know.
Well, this is a point that Sarah Longwell has made for a long time.
Yes.
There are people like Claire McCaskill who say you should not. Oh, here we go. It's Wednesday.
The Goodyear blimp is flying over your house again. Grass is growing faster in Connecticut than anywhere else.
We got a lot of rain.
Okay. Right. Well, so the grass is sprouting up one more time.
Grass loved it. It's still warm. We got a lot of rain. What's to hate? So, Claire McCaskill says you should never platform Trump, don't show him, and Sarah Longwell says that's wrong. What you need to do is show Trump uncut. People need to understand how incoherent he is.
Okay,
how
good.
How bored, how the crowd starts to leave. You need to see that stuff.
Yes.
You need to see that he's a loser.
Yeah, and small and weak.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure we got your line in there.
Yeah, well, repetition. He's a chaos agent, but a small and weak one.
Yeah.
So, all of that I think is important. I think that that's beginning to happen.
Good.
Meanwhile, North Carolina has some other news besides its close polling. RFK Jr., as you probably know, is trying to throw the race in Trump's favor, but he's having a little legal trouble doing this because he wanted to take his name off the ballot in North Carolina, and the State Board of Elections wouldn't let him. So now he's suing them.
Well, they were saying they wanted to, all these states that were going to be so strict with all of their deadlines, you've missed the deadline to withdraw and go away. No, I guess no one cares about Kennedy's. North Carolina, not really known for their Kennedy fandom anyway.
Well, but the thing is, it's a swing state. It's very close. According to the polls, Kennedy takes more votes from Trump than Harris. Right. So Kennedy decided the best thing for Trump would be for me to disappear. And North Carolina said, not so fast, bucko. You showed up here trying to make trouble. You're going to have to finish what you started.
Ah, okay. Carry it to term. Go ahead. Yep. Well, good. I mean, let him cause problems for Trump. I don't mind. But, yeah, basically, good. Continue to take away votes. And, I don't know. He's kind of irrelevant. But to the extent that he hurts Trump, hooray.
Right.
Fine.
Meanwhile, give me an idea of the Republican Party in North Carolina. And this is a thing that happened, not just Mark Robinson's porn story. Voters in Mecklenburg County's House Districts 105 and 98 received mailers this month. I don't know what it is with Republicans and mailers, but they're really into
They love mail. Well, they hate female, so they must love mail.
Warning that Democrat Beth Helfrich wants to legalize heroin and hookers, and that Democrat Nicole Sidman wants to legalize prostitution and hard drugs.
Different. Very different. Not heroin, just hard drugs. Hookers and hard drugs.
No, we're not repeating the same thing everywhere. See, it's different.
Yeah, we changed it. We didn't specify what hard drug she wants to.
The mailers paid for by the North Carolina Republican Party urged residents to vote for Melinda Bales, the former Huntersville mayor, over Helfrich in 98, and Tricia Cotham over Sidman in House District 105. Tricia Cotham's name comes up now and again.
Okay.
One mailer says Bales will increase funding for law enforcement. Helfrich supports legalizing heroin. Both mailers feature black and white images of the Democratic candidates with their smiles altered into grimaces.
Oh, heroin-loving grimaces.
So when somebody takes the time to Photoshop your face and think up alliterative scare tactics, it gets people talking, Helfrich said. Serious issues call for serious holistic approaches, not absurd scare tactics.
Yeah.
So we'll see. What? But, this is election time, and that's how you know it's really election time. You get this crap stuff. It's just usually it's like third parties. In this particular case, it is directly from the Republicans.
Well.
No plausible deniability here.
Yeah, okay. Good. So he sticks to them. I don't know how well that's going to work. Where was it? Well, Mecklenburg County. I mean, they're not rubes. They're going to be, I mean, honestly, there's certainly going to be some Republican fans who are already in the Republican column who will say, I can't believe it. But that's what most people will say.
I was going to vote Republican, but now I'm going to vote Republican.
With gusto and without heroin. But, yeah, the number of people who are like, well, I'm a little bit on the fence. They both have their selling points. Oh, wait a minute. Heroin legalized. Come on. But most people just don't believe that that's the case. They just say, oh, my God, this is just such a dumb claim.
Right.
Now the question is whether they will say, I'm angry at the people who made this dumb claim or not.
So there's some other numbers I want to go over because I've seen this posted a lot, and I thought it was worth talking about.
All right.
There's a Twitter account called Ad Impact Politics, which helps to round up stuff that other people talk about. And they're talking about the amount of money.
We all do that, yeah.
That's reserved for the election from now till November. how much money has the Democrat campaign, the Republican campaign, put in to reserve ad space, because campaigns can do it cheaper than third-party groups.
Right.
But when you add them all up, it turns out there's, in the 9 weeks between Labor Day and Election Day, there's $1.9 billion of ad time sent to air.
Gosh, that seems like too much, but all right. Prices have gone up.
But of that
thanks, Obama,
money for the presidential race, $303 million is reserved by the Democrats and $135 million by the Republicans, so more than twice the spending by the Democrats. In reservations in presidential battlegrounds, Pennsylvania equals $70 million each. Georgia equal $39 million each. Michigan, $55 for the Democrats, $6 for the Republicans. Arizona, $34 for the Democrats, $9 for the Republicans. Wisconsin, $33 for the Democrats, $3.5 for the Republicans. North Carolina, $26 million for the Democrats, $2.8 million for the Republicans. 10 to 1 out spending. And Nevada, 19.5 versus 1.4. And in Omaha, Nebraska 2, Northeast 2, as we like to call it here in Connecticut, $7 million for the Democrats and $0 for the Republicans.
Zero.
However, so people look at this and say, oh my God, the Republicans are getting really, really outspent. What's going on here? But these are coming up numbers from now until the election that have already been reserved. You can still spend more. It's going to cost you more the closer you get to Election Day.
So there could be, third party or super PACs or billionaires.
Super PACs and third parties that do it are going to have to pay higher rates.
That's fine.
But they can still spend the money. So just because the Democrats have reserved more, it's significant, but it doesn't mean that therefore that's how it's going to wind up. Yeah. And to just try to make that point, the same account at Impact Politics looks at something a little bit different, and that is, okay, so what did they already spend? Like, let's look at August. Here's August recap of presidential TV spending. Okay. The Republicans have spent $143 million, and the Democrats have spent $137 million.
All right.
So
close.
You feel like in your area, well, I saw what you wrote here about the Democrats outspending the Republicans 2 to 1, 5 to 1, 10 to 1 in certain states. But all I'm seeing is Republican ads. Well, that's because you're looking at money already spent, not money reserved for the future. They're different.
Well, yes. You know how it is. The future is different.
Yeah, the future is different than the present or the past. But, the Republicans are spending the money, and they're certainly at parity. That's my point. And by the time the election comes around, they'll be closer to parity than these numbers would suggest. So it's great. I'm glad we have the money. We're not getting outspent, if anything, the other way around. But don't get too overconfident just looking at the reserved money, because that's not the entire picture and that's not the entire story. That's what I'm telling you.
They may not be fiscally conservative, but they may end up in parity nonetheless by spending too much to get there.
Right. But just to give you an idea what's going on here. All right.
Please,
August
I would
recap
like to know
2024. Republicans spent $143 million already.
Yeah.
In 2020, the Republicans spent $51.
Aha. Inflation.
2024, Democrats have spent $137 million already.
In August. Yeah.
In August alone. And in August in 2020, 92.
Okay.
So in 2020,
the apart.
Democrats were outspending the Republicans 2 to 1. Now it's parity.
I see.
Even though everybody's spending has doubled.
Yes.
Or in the case of the Republicans, tripled.
Well, August
so they'll have the money.
Not a great place for Republicans.
Even with Trump siphoning everything off for his legal fees, they still have enough money to get on the air. They will be on the air. A lot of it will be funded by the billionaires, as Larry David might say, the millionaires and the billionaires. And so, it's not like they're going to go dark, except in Omaha.
Yes. They'll go negative, but not dark.
What they're really concentrating on, however, which is pretty clear, is Pennsylvania. And not so much Wisconsin, which is interesting. I think they're scared of Ben Wickler.
Well, good. Let's stay off the air. Go.
He's the Democratic National Chairman, Democratic State Chairman in Wisconsin, and doing a wonderful job winning all sorts of seats, including Supreme Court seats, and making the Democrats competitive in crucial Waukesha County.
Yeah. Done a wonderful job reversing the field there in Wisconsin. Came in the darkest days of the Scott Walker just doldrums, I guess, and a state that really could easily be blue and reliably so, that had been gerrymandered into redness, and the kind of place that for a while you could easily have been forgiven if you thought it was hopeless to turn around. But Ben Wickler would not have forgiven you for thinking it was hopeless, because it wasn't, and he turned it around.
So this was a piece, by the way, about John McCain's son endorsing Harris, Jimmy McCain, which happened to be on CNN. And as I'm looking at it, I'm catching some of the headlines that they had next to it, which gives you an idea of why Dana Bash did what she did and why Harris did what she did. Because here's one from dated August 31st. Arlington Cemetery controversy deepens as Trump and Harris trade attacks. They didn't really trade attacks. Harris had a single statement she made. That's all she did. It's the only time she's talked about it. But here it is, CNN trying to make equivalency here. He said, she said, and Harris is simply saying, I'm not having any part of this.
Yeah.
You go on and do your own things. And then so the other four
people.
Headlines all have to do with this isn't the first time Trump did this. Trump is still talking about it. The worst, the Rick Santorum analyst for CNN, Scott Jennings, who has just gotten even more blatant about being a Republican shill, saying, I don't understand why everybody's so upset at Trump. He said this like yesterday.
What?
They're still talking about it. I don't understand why everybody's so upset about Trump and the cemetery thing. I mean, even John McCain's son is upset at Trump. I don't get it. Why aren't they saying that Harris is disrespecting the Gold Star families?
How?
Yeah, exactly. But that gives you an idea of, first of all, it's not going away. They know it. They feel like they have to say something. Secondly, their attacks don't work. And thirdly, Harris ain't playing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not certain what they're trying to get at here, but he's the masks off for that guy. All right, a good Wednesday roundup. Let's do some more news tomorrow before
let's start at 9.
Wandering off into the weekend.
I mean, you did, but I'll try to come along.
Okay. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. My goodness. Okay, how much can we fit in the next hour or so? So many things to catch up on. Let's see. First, I will tell you, I don't know how much more we should. I thought, okay, well, we can read through the article on Mark Robinson and his weird porn habit. But I mean, you probably saw that headline and stopped in your tracks and read the story. And if you didn't, the story is the guy's a wacko hypocrite. And that's okay. I mean, look, I don't know what to say about his habits other than it's the hypocrisy that should be bothering people, and it is. Although I should also mention that there was some discussion this morning about it, and I didn't really know this story, and I wonder if I can find it. But there's more than just the weird, excessive porn habit thing going on. Apparently, there was also some sort of issue with, and this is dangerous, but I'm going to get to it. It's Girl Scout cookies, not Girl Scouts, but Girl Scout cookies. That involves the Girl Scouts, but something. And I don't know what to tell you. He's apparently was also sued at some point, or his wife was sued by Girl Scouts organization of some kind, whether it was the local Scouts or the national, I don't know. But apparently this, I don't know what to say. He got himself in trouble with them as well, and the porn shop thing. And somebody was just like, hey, I don't know what to say, but, the Republicans have got to be a little bit nervous about what they're facing in North Carolina, that their top of the ticket locally has a nominee for governor who's in trouble for being questioned about an excessive porn habit, but also being sued by Girl Scouts for, stealing cookies. And I just don't know what to say about this. Here's a bit of coverage. I didn't see the social media mention of it that I was thinking of, but that's okay. It wasn't like an exclusive. And I don't know why I'm going to read to you new North Carolina news from out of New Jersey coverage, newjersey.com, but that's what popped up, at least in my social media search. Alleged porn shop regular. This Trump candidate also stiffed Girl Scouts for $3,000 worth of cookies. That's the issue. And so, it's a bad combination all by itself, but here you go. North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, it says here in the caption for the photo that they're using, who has crusaded against pornography, that's the issue, has denied that he was a regular at a porn shop. But then again, what are you going to do? He's going to deny that. And okay, this I have, like I said, it's from NewJersey.com. Kevin Manahan is the reporter here. Labor Day has come and gone, which means two things. Let's see what they think of it in New Jersey. Kids are back at school. That's true in New Jersey. It's true everywhere. Happens earlier here in Virginia and in the South. And opposition research is dropping. Oh, okay. And people are paying attention to it. That's why it's dropping, though. Anyway, and in the North Carolina governor's race, things are getting ugly fast. In just 24 hours, Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, an extremist, just says extremist, who has been heartily endorsed by Donald Trump, and that's why, because he's an extremist, is facing allegations that he was a regular at video porn shops in the 1990s and 2000s, and his wife tried to stiff the Girl Scouts out of $3,000 worth of cookies, which, as transgressions go, I guess it's sort of normalizing. It's a little humanizing. Would I want $3,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies for free? Yes. Would I steal them? No. Would I want $3,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies if I paid for them? Sure, the Girl Scout cookies are great, although $3,000 worth, I don't know how much that is, but anyway. I like Girl Scout cookies. I would keep a bunch of them. $3,000 worth might be too much. Now, this is already on top of allegations that while acting as a middleman for schools trying to get funding to provide lunches, Robinson's charity allegedly skimmed at least some of that cash. Now we know what they spent it on. Porn and cookies, which, that could win you some votes, I guess, but not if you are going to be a big critic of porn at the same time. But anyway, or an anti-porn crusader anyhow. And there's plenty of reasons that would be, good ones to be anti-porn crusader. But he picked the most annoying and least popular one, intrusion into other people's business. Anyway, as part of his campaign, Robinson, who has been called MAGA's Great Black Hope, boy, I hope that doesn't catch on because it's insulting, but anyway, has crusaded to remove what he considers pornography, that is to say, references to the LGBTQ community, as opposed to what the rest of us consider pornography, by which we mean pornography, whereas he's just like, if there's a young adult fiction book in which there's a gay character, that's pornography in his view. Well, he wants that, of course, removed as pornography from school and public libraries because he says it grooms and indoctrinates youngsters. To do what? I don't know. Spend 5 days a week in peep show booths? Maybe. Robinson, the current lieutenant governor, which don't forget that. He should, under normal circumstances, you need to resign. But no, not him. Anyway, current lieutenant governor has also said that, and this too would usually lead to your resignation, some folks need killing, particularly liberals. So pro-murder, denies the Holocaust, bit of a peep show freak, stealing Girl Scout cookies and skimming money off of charities that are supposed to pay for lunches at schools for kids. A quality candidate for the Republicans. In most polls, Robinson trails Democratic candidate Josh Stein, and who leads, I guess, by 6 to 10 points. This needs some editing. Is slipped through the proofreading stage. And GOP analysts are concerned that Robinson's poor showing could put the state in play for Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, and now the polling could get even worse for Robinson. In a report published on Tuesday, 5 men who worked at or patronized a pair of 24-hour video pornography stores in Greensboro. And in case you want to visit the same site, like people went to the wide stance booth, toilet stalls in the Minnesota airport. You want to go see Gents Video and News. He was a news junkie at the same time. That's why he was there. I paid 25 cents. I was previewing the news, not pornography. Gents Video and News. News. And okay. Again, an editing issue here. Gents Video and News and I-40, Interstate 40, presumably, video and news. This is a very widespread cover-up they're engaged in this industry. And let's see. So 5 men who worked at or patronized these 2 newsstands told the North Carolina Assembly, and there I think we're talking about not the state legislature, but a news outlet, that Robinson would frequently visit the shop after working for a nearby pizza shop. Yeah, pizza and porn, it's alliterative, it works. Louis Money, the person's last name is Money, a former employee who insisted he had no political agenda, said Robinson would often purchase 2 or more previews, which consisted of a viewing in a private booth over the course of the night. It's like getting taste samples at the ice cream store, I guess, except pornography and whatever else. So there you go. And he would do 2 a night. He also purchased hundreds, it says here, and that's enclosed in quotes, hundreds of bootleg porn videos that Money sold. He said most were just straight American porn, he said. But this is, I guess, bootleg. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. And it doesn't sound good for America. But most were just straight American porn, i.e. nothing too outlandish, I guess, but bootleg. I'm curious about what that is about. And I don't trust anybody, Money says, that doesn't like good old American porn. And so that might sell. He should be judged on everything else, but he should not be judged for this. Okay, I just thought, but I would tell the news that there's something I don't think you should judge him for. Okay. I mean, I think he might have a political agenda, but that's okay. Everybody does. While Robinson has demanded that books containing LGBTQ references be banned, Money said Robinson had a different take years ago. I know he might have problems with gay people, but I don't think he has problems with lesbians, Money said. And it's just a little crazy. But hey, that wasn't the only scandal, though, to hit Robinson on Tuesday. There's more. According to public records from Guilford County Court, the wife of Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson was sued by Tar Heel Triad Girl Scouts over money owed, that's in quotes, money owed in Guilford County Small Claims Court in 2003, and the Girl Scouts won. So, it is, he'll say, that's over 20 years old. Okay. But I mean, is there a statute of limitations for talking about you ripping off Girl Scouts? In September of 2003, the Girl Scouts filed suit against Yolanda Hill, I guess that's his wife, due to a $2,956.03 bad check. The matter was heard the following month, and court documents indicate nobody attended on behalf of the defendant, so they defaulted and lost. The magistrate found in favor of the Girl Scouts and tacked on fees and damages as permitted by state law and returned checks for a grand total of $3,486.03. $1.03. So, a little extra fine on top of there. Robinson and Hill had to pay the Girl Scouts attorney fees as well. At a campaign stop on Tuesday, Robinson refused to answer questions about either scandal, and his campaign has denied the porn shop allegations. But I guess they're not denying the Girl Scout cookie allegations. And I'd like to know what the story behind it all is and how you get to a point at which you say, yes, I would like to order $3,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies. They're delicious and everything, but I don't know how you rack up that kind of thing. Or maybe it was, were they going to resell them? Do they have kids? Do they have daughters and Girl Scouts and you buy the supply and then go sell it? I really don't know what they thought they were buying. But, yeah, don't write checks you can't cover. Don't do it for Girl Scout cookies. And also think about cutting back on the Girl Scout cookies just in general. They're delicious and everything, but you're probably going to get yourself in trouble. Okay, that's weird. He's weird. He may cost them North Carolina, and that's kind of cool. This is I want to tell you about Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman, and we're going to do that, but North Carolina and that weirdness brings me to the opportunity to tell you a little something about what Amanda Marcotte is thinking today. And, of course, that's the main theme of this show. What is Amanda Marcotte talking about? Kind of. This is an interesting one in terms of this is an alternative theory about what Trump is doing with abortion as an issue. My email is full of is full of it, and it's full of links to things speculating about what's driving the Trump abortion agenda, or how he's flip-flopped and contorted himself, and how now he's trying to sell himself as an abortion moderate because he's hemorrhaging support among women and among suburban women in particular. We've heard all of this stuff. There's right here at the top of the list of things waiting from The Hill. The Hill sends me about 19 emails every morning. News alert, Trump ties himself in knots on abortion. News alert, Republicans fret over Trump's free fall among women. Those things are side by side. Oh, the very next one. Morning report, campaign cash and abortion loom large for Trump, Kamala Harris. And news alert, Democrats see abortion battle as chance to make gains in Florida. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 emails in a row from The Hill, all mentioning the Trump abortion contortions. That's not easy to say. But is he simply lying his ass off in an effort to try to retake some suburban women's votes? I don't know. Probably that's the prevailing theory. Here's another one to compete with it. Amanda's headline, Trump wants men to believe he's a, quote, fun misogynist. But JD Vance gives up the game. This is interesting and I think fairly plausible. Trump's abortion flip-flop is a distraction from MAGA's true goal, tie young people down with marriage and kids. It's an interesting thought, and you might wonder about, what needle is Trump trying to thread here with his abortion moderation stance. It could be about winning back women, but it could be about winning back the bro vote. And at the same time, the guy who was supposed to win him the bro vote, JD Vance, turns out to be, he's a stiff and a weirdo, and the bros don't think he's cool. And also, he seems much more pure in his misogyny. He's not being fun about it. He's just being weird. I don't understand why you dislike women so much if you're a wife guy, kind of thing. Anyway, let me give you the more coherent thoughts that Amanda has put together and thought about and then written down, rather than just spewing them live from the rally stage or this podcast microphone. Donald Trump's been flipping and flopping like a panicked fish these days on the issue of abortion. Trump recently made the specious claim on Truth Social that he would be, quote, great for women and their reproductive rights. Like he just heard that phrase, reproductive rights. So he throws in there, I'll be great for women and your reproductive rights, which, by the way, are also men's reproductive rights in a way, because you know how it works with pregnancy. And in most cases, these decisions are made as between the two participants in the situation. But hey, you know, bottom line, we know where the decision rests, but anyway, he's late to the game and doesn't quite know what to say. So reproductive rights he uses. On Thursday, the Republican candidate caused a commotion amongst conservatives when he seemed to signal disapproval of Florida's abortion ban, claiming we need more than 6 weeks. It's 2 weeks for me to even tell you you're pregnant. When are you going to tell me the results of my pregnancy test? Soon, very soon, 2 weeks. We need more than 6 weeks, and implying that he plans to vote for an amendment that would repeal the state's new law in November. Even though he was almost certainly lying, Trump swiftly got heat from anti-choice activists. So on Friday, he flipped yet again and affirmed that he plans to vote against the amendment, which means he's voting to keep a near-total abortion ban in place in Florida. That's exactly how Joan explained it to us yesterday. Now, Amanda goes on to say it's impossible to track from minute to minute what Trump is saying about abortion, but one constant, of course, is that he's lying. We know from Project 2025, which was created to handle Trump's policy agenda in lieu of a traditional transition team, that the goal is to ban abortion nationally, either through an act of Congress or by fiat, with an executive order making it a crime to transport drugs or other materials to be used in an abortion. Trump doesn't want Americans to know this. It would be very unpopular, right? Abortion bans aren't just wildly unpopular. Polls show anger over abortion bans are motivating voters, especially women. They are now registering to vote at astonishing rates. But Trump's dodging and weaving around the issue isn't just about women. Abortion bans aren't popular with men either, especially the kind of male voters Trump has been heavily marketing to in recent weeks, bro voters. It's interesting because there was a moment there where it looked like the bro vote was going to go and stay anti-abortion. Actually, a moment like years, but a moment where I thought that maybe even the, millennial and Gen Z bros had been talked into the Republican position like, yeah, women should stay pregnant and in the kitchen, and so I'm anti-abortion. And yet, ultimately, I think it turns out, no, they would rather not find out that they've made people pregnant and are going to be responsible for raising a child, at least monetarily, even if they're natalists. Well, anyway, it's interesting. Abortion bans aren't popular with men, normal men, because they want the women in their lives to be able to have a life and exert some control and make mutual decisions with them about when they are going to have children and not have things forced upon them. But then it's also, I guess, even spreading to the bro contingent. They are the younger, more secular crowd of men that Trump has been courting by appearing on podcasts ranging from generically doodly ones to those hosted by far-right bigots. But I guess ultimately, if you're trying to figure out where does this demographic lie, Proud Boys don't particularly want to be saddled with child support payments after all. And the solution, as they see it, is leave us the hell alone, do what it takes to win, but stay out of the way of my running my own life. Not all younger men are interested in demonizing feminism, of course. I mean, there's an angle for it for the Proud Boys, but as it turns out, the JD Vance angle on it is just too weird, even for them. But as I added that commentary, she just goes on to say, but as journalist Max Reed explained in his newsletter, this is, some asterisks in here. I got to work this one out. The dip blank, S word, outreach strategy. That's a great strategy. The dip outreach strategy is premised on the idea that a consistent media campaign among them might increase turnout with low propensity voters. That's one way of describing the same people. I say you are, I need my censoring right. You're a but other people say you're a low propensity voter. Get it? Now, Amanda explains it's an evil strategy, but one with some logic to it. Trump is a loudmouthed misogynist who was proven in court to have committed sexual assault against journalist E. Jean Carroll. These facts can't be changed, but the Trump campaign believes they can spin Trump's hatred of women as an asset, marketing him to men who resent women's social and economic progress. You know, incels who shoot people, that kind of person. In this view, Trump is presented as a fun misogynist, offering permission to men to be oinking pigs who sexually harass without apology and expect to be indulged at every turn just for their wise choice to be born male. Male voters are led to believe that in Trump's world, which, remember, from years past, is a sex cult, right? In Trump's world, women have to shut up and serve, while men get to do whatever they want without consequences. The problem for Trump is that fun misogyny is hard to square with abortion bans, which stem from a more puritanical sexism, one which seeks to constrain the sexual expression of both men and women, right? You know, partner with your teenage son to make sure that nobody spends more time than is fair at newsstands in North Carolina. Even the dimmest of dude bros knows that forced childbirth doesn't just trap women. Men can and should be worried about how an unwanted pregnancy can affect their social lives and their pocketbooks. It's a lot harder to be a carefree cad about town when you have child support payments, or even, as the religious right hopes, a shotgun marriage. It's likely why the latest Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll found that 1 in 5 men called abortion a top voting issue for them. In 2019, prior to the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade, the same poll found that fewer than 10% of men said abortion was a top priority. It's now doubled to 20. 1 in 5 is 20%. Interesting, right? And the shotgun marriage mention is an important one, right? You can't lift your way out of a shotgun marriage. A shotgun will blow your head off whether you're muscular or not. One of the few places in which they have less control than they think they do. All right. Well, anyway, Trump, maybe they have less control than they think they do in a lot of it. But at any rate, I don't know. I'm getting off track. Amanda, rescue me. Trump's history of compulsive adultery and even his 34 felony convictions, which stemmed from an illegal hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels, more porn, helped burnish his image as a hedonistic misogynist. But that can only go so far in distracting voters from the fact that he did more than any other person to end the right to legal abortion. Trump may occasionally bristle when people point out that the religious right wholly owns him, but at every turn he proves how true that accusation is. When he even pretended to be moderate on abortion with his weasel words around the Florida ban, anti-choice activists threw a fit. It wasn't even 24 hours before Trump was back to towing the hard right line of standing by a state law that makes almost all safe abortions illegal. And we've seen him have to reverse course before. He prides himself on refusing to reverse course, but just look at what happens with him and vaccines, right? They're booing me. Okay, I'm against myself on that then. The choice of Senator JD Vance of Ohio as his running mate underscores how impossible it is to strike the balance Trump wants. Vance was clearly picked as a play for the bro vote. He may be awkward in most ways. I mean, bros should be beating him up, honestly. But Vance channels both the male entitlement and unvarnished loathing of women that defines the angry male voter the Trump campaign wants. The problem is that Vance has a long history of arguing that the government's job is frog-marching young people into marriage and parenthood. The sooner the better. Vance has spoken out against reproductive rights and divorce, and he has advocated for policies that punish people who don't produce biological children. While much of his vitriol against single and or childless people is aimed at women, most men grasp that you can't have forced motherhood without forcing fatherhood as well. Vance doesn't help the case by talking about marriage and parenthood more as a duty than a joy. Trump wants young men to view him as a playboy to look up to, like when he told all the Boy Scouts, right? Though the details of his encounter with Daniels suggest that his sexual prowess is about as real as his orange-hued skin tone, never mind. Vance, however, tells the real story of MAGA government's plans for young men, trapping them in hasty marriages alongside the women who are being forced to bear all these children. For a wealthy man like Trump, being married with lots of kids doesn't interrupt the womanizing. Wives and children can be safely stored out of sight at second homes or penthouse apartments while the men run off to golf tournaments to commit adultery. For middle-class men, however, marriage and fatherhood mark the end of youth and usher in an era of adult responsibilities. It's not that they never wanted to get married, but most wanted to enjoy their youth first. Few fantasize about settling down for life with the first girl they ever got naked with. Yeesh. Well, it's true. But okay, I wasn't expecting that turn, but, where else do we think it was going to go? The chaos in the polling data shows why Trump is so worried about this. With young women, the polling is stable. Most hate Trump and plan to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, and that's really it. But some polls show Trump has strong support with young men, while others show much less enthusiasm for the Republican candidate. Let's see if we can dive a little further into that after this break.
Sup fam, it's your boy Darwin, aka Darwin_Darko, aka the most reasonable man in America, aka KITM's senior black correspondent. You might remember me from such recordings as Spacemen vs. Space Cadets and We Need to Talk About Joe Biden. Today, I want to bring you good news about that thing you've been struggling with. Do you suffer from giving too much of a damn? Do you turn on the series of tubes and find yourself outraged at the particular way some news organization strung some sentences together only to realize, nope, this is not some fictional hellscape? Well, guess what? You no longer have to accept the life of giving too much of a damn. You can do something about it, because even you, yes you, can be a show contributor. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, Mr. Most Reasonable Man in America, I'm not some professional podcast talking guy. Don't worry about it. Do you have a smartphone or some other electronic recording device? Well, that's all you need. You too can have a segment where you can read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Fair warning though, side effects may include general punditry, having opinions and hot takes, getting stuff off your chest, and hearing your own voice. If your recording lasts longer than 5 to 7 minutes, please consult kagrox@gmail.com. That's KAGROX@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We got to make our way through the rest of the Amanda Marcotte article. Always important to get to the bottom of the thinking here, and I like this sort of alternative explanation for what's going on with the Trump twists and turns and flip-flops and tying himself in knots over the abortion issue. We were just mentioning that the chaos in the polling data, or Amanda was mentioning it, shows why Trump is so worried about what? About the fact that younger men are actually considering voting on the basis of abortion at twice the numbers they used to before he turned the whole thing on its head by appointing Supreme Court justices hell-bent on overturning Roe v. Wade. So, some of the polls showing that Trump has strong support with young men. Note that while others show much less enthusiasm for the Republican candidate, the young men are very excited. She says, I suspect this volatility depends on how Trump's misogyny is playing out in any given week. If Trump is successfully spinning himself as a womanizer who winks at women aborting inconvenient pregnancies, and that's kind of how he won in the first place, then he can probably keep those young men. If, however, the Vance faction is winning out and young men are reminded that Project 2025 is also a threat to their freedom, they could start peeling away. Wouldn't that be an amazing coincidence if it turned out that JD Vance could make no connection, human or otherwise, with the bros that he was brought on board to win, and as it turns out, he's a weirdo and an anomaly, and young men really don't want to have anything to do with him whatsoever, except for the very weirdest and most dangerous among them? Trump's tendency to lie about his radically anti-abortion views could do a lot to keep him in the good graces of the bro voters, but the anti-choice community demands fealty from Trump, both privately in assurances he will ban abortion and publicly in reaffirmation of support for abortion bans. Keeping his doodly base from learning he will force fatherhood upon them is the key to Trump winning in November. So it's crucial that Harris pull out every stop to make sure those voters know Trump is happy to throw them to the wolves alongside the women they resent. Yes, your faces will be eaten by the very same leopards that you threw the women to. How do you feel about that? And the answer is, that other guy, that weird neckbeard dude, doesn't even know how to order a donut. Maybe I don't like him after all. That's what we're looking for out of this. So an interesting alternative explanation for the gyrations on abortion. And well-timed there. Glad to add it to the pile. Okay. Man, there's a lot of stuff. I promised you the Jacob Wohl story, and I have it here from 404 Media, which covered the story, I think, first. But who knows? I don't know. It's now breaking into the mainstream. It's time for you to hear about it if you haven't already. We'll hear about it from 404 Media. Big tech, quote, clients of Jacob Wohl's secret AI lobbying firm say they've never heard of it. Okay, what's going on here? Maybe you've never heard of Jacob Wohl if you're relatively new to the show, or like in the past, I don't know. It's been like 2-3 years since we mentioned Jacob Wohl, but he's a perennial recidivist. What's the subheader here? Pfizer, Microsoft, Palantir, Home Depot, Lockheed Martin, all shown supposedly as, quote, clients of Lobbymatic. That's the secret AI lobbying firm they were mentioning in the headline. All of them say they haven't worked with the company. And that's good news, because as I read the first news coverage about this, I was like, well, I'd love to know who gets fooled. Who's the rep who they meet with who says, I'll sign on with your fake ass company for it was advertised as a trial run with the company. So who knows? Maybe it was a free trial or not. But I mean, just who meets with this guy about anything and says, yes, I'll do what you're talking about. All right. What's the background here? Jason Kobler will tell us all about it for 404 Media. The piece is illustrated with a weird and awkward photo of Jack Berkman and Jacob Wohl. From when, I don't know, but this is, I think, an older photo. And if you take a good look at it, you'll recognize the setting if you remember these guys from way back. It's another one of those weird press conferences held in the driveway or the front stoop of Jack Berkman's house, as you know, because they have no office. And it's just kind of weird. And I don't understand why people went to press conferences at this guy's house. And I think it's like a townhouse, and he's at the top of the stairs, and the press is like down below. This is the only venue they had available to them, which should have tipped you off to the fake assness of their entire operation. Not just this one, but all prior operations. And then, of course, you might wonder, just taking a look at this, you know, I don't know how old they both are, but Jack Berkman strikes you as a 40-something, and Jacob Wohl as a 12-something. And, you know, though it's not my place to pry, one wonders at the nature of this particular Batman Boy Wonder relationship that they have here. What is it that brings these guys together for crime after crime and scam after scam? I don't know for sure. I can't explain it. I may never be able to explain it, but, you know, I don't think it's my job to explain it, so I'm not gonna. All right, here's the news. Monday. This was the day we were off, Labor Day. Politico revealed that convicted fraudsters and right-wing activists Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman have been secretly operating a company. How do you mean secretly operating a company? You'll find out. That purports to do, of course, AI, anything, really. AI anything. But in this case, AI-powered lobbying. The company called Lobbymatic. 404 Media has learned that the company also, for months, advertised in screenshots that major companies were using its product. And guess what? Many of these companies told us at 404 Media that they have never been clients of Lobbymatic. So what do you know? A little bit of fraud going on here. Lobbymatic purports to be the AI automation platform for lobbyists and claims that it can help companies and lobbyists use AI to create a lobbying strategy, to create talking points, to analyze hearings and bills, and to track legislative progress of bills. Now, by the way, these are things that I think AI probably can, in fact, do. They could certainly, but I mean, you don't need AI necessarily to do it, but you could use, generative AI chatbots to write talking points about things. I mean, ordinarily I would recommend that you check those talking points because they may be completely off the wall, but, what do I care if most lobbying goes south? But okay, some people are doing good lobbying work. It's not a terrible application, but, really, honestly, I guess it's not so hard to find people rather than computers who can tell you, well, here's how you ought to approach your lobbying strategy. Okay, so let's see. Wohl and Berkman have been running the company, this is the real problem, under pseudonyms, calling themselves Jay Klein and Bill Sanders, rather than their real names, Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman. So you might wonder why. And the answer is because they're recidivist criminals and fraudsters, and they didn't want people to know that they were running the company, because if you found that out and you had any memory, you would say, I'm not signing up for anything run by Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman. They're fraudsters. But what about Jay Klein and Bill Sanders? Don't know them, but let's see what they have to say. Well, they claim that the company had signed up Toyota, the lobbying firm Boundary Stone Partners, who almost assuredly, if they're a lobbying firm, they know how to lobby. They don't really need AI for this. And the drug company Lantheus, according to Politico. And I think the Politico story is the one that I originally read. I don't know why I ended up banking this one to read from, but maybe, I don't know. If they're just reporting what Politico did, maybe I should be reading that one, but I already read that one, so I can read you the 404 Media one, which we started with. And if there's a point that I thought they overlooked from the Politico one, we can add it later. So, where were we with this? Okay. So I guess their own reporter has a new angle on it, because he goes on to say, back in January, I, the reporter here, became aware of Lobbymatic and began to do some cursory reporting on the company. That's why I included this one. At the time, the company was writing blog posts on Medium under the name Pat Smith. Now, Pat Smith, as it turns out, was an AI-generated woman who doesn't exist. The photo, that is to say, was, I'm sure, AI generated. On this website, and it's pointed to here, Lobbymatic, on its website, that's why it's Lobbymatic, was also showing demo screenshots of its software that seemed to suggest that its software was being widely used for lobbyists of major companies. One screenshot, for example, showed a sidebar that listed clients, quote-unquote clients, including Visa, Toyota, Salesforce, and Pfizer. Other demo screenshots suggested it was lobbying on behalf of Capital One, Lockheed Martin, Meta, Fidelity, the lobbying firm Holland & Knight, Home Depot, Palantir, and Microsoft. I'm sure their claim would be, well, we were just, using dummy names dummy names of companies that are major and can sue you for copyright infringement, but, whatever, or trademark infringement. Here are those screenshots illustrating everything. Well, our intrepid reporter, emailed all of these companies, and 6 of them, Pfizer, Microsoft, Palantir, Home Depot, Lockheed Martin, Holland & Knight, told me they were not clients of Lobbymatic. The others, Meta, Fidelity, Visa, Capital One, Salesforce, Toyota, did not respond. Several of the companies that responded told me that they had never heard of Lobbymatic and had no idea why their companies were being shown in product demos. A Microsoft spokesperson told me that it is not a client of Lobbymatic. Pfizer said, I can confirm they are not a vendor. Palantir said Lobbymatic is not and never has been a Palantir customer. Oh, that's interesting. They got that backwards. Looks like they're using us as an example of a client for a potential customer firm, which we are not, nor have we authorized the use of our name and logo. Lockheed Martin told me it never heard of the company. Home Depot said, we're not a client of Lobbymatic. And Holland & Knight said, checked in on this, and we are not a client of Lobbymatic. Sometime after my round of emails, the screenshots were removed from Lobbymatic's website. What do you know? Or were cropped to remove the names of specific supposed clients. Some of these original screenshots are still available on the Internet Archive. With Lobbymatic's groundbreaking AI technology, this taken from their site, you can draft technically detailed, legally fluent regulatory comment letters 10 times faster than ever before, the company wrote in a Medium post. So that it made it, there's always, AstroTurf lobbying that goes on in comment letters. They're just saying they would use AI to generate the content of them. Lobbymatic's which also doesn't matter, by the way, because normally some one person would generate sample language and either fake a bunch of letters from non-existent people or put out the word that if you care about this but you don't care to write your own letter, you could just take this text and send it to the appropriate regulatory agency or member of Congress, what have you. Frequently done. Lobbymatic's advanced natural language generation capabilities allow you to instantly produce insightful comment letters on complex regulatory issues. You can even use Lobbymatic to draft a regulatory comment letter from the perspective of your opponent, anticipating their likely talking points and arguments before they even make them. Which, that text right there is pretty well crafted. So I don't know whether, if you tell me AI wrote that, I'd say you got a pretty decent AI model going there. If you tell me that one of the people working at Lobbymatic wrote it, I would say just let them write the damn thing. You don't need to worry about burning up a lake full of water to have a computer write it. Boundary Stone Partners, one of the companies who actually did use the platform, told Politico that, quote, we quickly determined the tool did not work and terminated our contract 2 months ago. Still, somebody at an actual lobbying firm had to say yes to these guys for some reason. Wohl and Berkman, they helpfully inform us finally, were convicted in 2022 of felony telecom fraud because they ran a robocall company in which they told people living in majority black neighborhoods not to vote by mail. The two right-wing activists were fined $5 million by the FCC and were ordered to spend 500 hours registering people to vote. According to Politico, they launched Lobbymatic under the pseudonyms Jay Klein and Bill Sanders, and they operated the company under those pseudonyms for months. Eventually, one of their own employees grew suspicious of the company and the fact that people kept referring to Wohl as Jacob and not Jay. You could say Jay was a nickname for Jacob, but then why not just continue saying Jay? There's no sense to it. That employee took a photo of Wohl in the office, ran a reverse image search, and determined that Jay Klein was actually Jacob Wohl. And I mean, I guess if you're in an AI-type tech company, they're going to be able to do that. You don't have to have any particular technical expertise to run a reverse image search. You just got to know it exists. So anyways, Lobbymatic did not respond to a request for comment. That's where we end with 404 Media's coverage of this thing. Politico's coverage of it was actually a little bit funnier. Convicted fraudsters launch AI lobbying firm using fake names. Once again, focusing on that angle. Daniel Lipman was the writer for Politico. Let me skip down, I guess, through the recitation of the facts, which you've already heard from 404 Media. And they put in the second paragraph the fact that the two of them are convicted fraudsters, and noting that it was in Ohio where they faced charges there. An Ohio judge ordered them to spend 500 hours registering people to vote. I guess that's why they needed an AI bot to do their lobbying for them. They were supposed to be out there doing their community service. Nowhere in here, by the way, does it say they fulfilled that requirement, but there you have it. Now, in his role as a founder and CEO of this new firm, this fake-ass firm, Wohl used the name Jay Klein. Berkman used the pseudonym Bill Sanders. The Lobbymatic website, of course, listing a bunch of fake clients. Running their new firm under pseudonyms appears to be the latest instance of shady behavior by a pair of convicted fraudsters who've become infamous in Washington for their various schemes. Now, they are seizing on public exuberance around the promise of AI, which is deflating by the moment, I would add, to transform the workplace, and in this case, the workplace is K Street. Two of the former Lobbymatic employees, they resigned after learning of Klein and Sanders' true identities, while the other two, cited in this article here in Politico, learned only after they had left the company that they were really Wohl and, what's his name, Berkman. The first worked for Lobbymatic for only a month. The other three worked there for the company for several months. Now, J/Jacob was, it says here, out of touch with reality. One of them said, working for them, you knew you were never getting the full story and were often left trying to find the truth. If I had to sum up my work experience for them, I would describe them as living with their head in the clouds and in a false reality. But meanwhile, everybody was reporting to work there. Were they getting paid? And if so, how? I just don't know what's going on with these two. The former employee said that they once accompanied, quote, Sanders to a house in Arlington that they later learned was owned by Berkman. It was the same house where Berkman and Wohl held press conferences several years ago to air their conspiracy claims. You remember they were trying to frame up like Elizabeth Warren as having had an affair of some kind, and they had this stupid press conference. Anyway, after getting hired by, quote, Jay Klein, the employee soon grew suspicious about Wohl and the company after witnessing an apparent hesitation to obtain business licenses. Why would you hesitate? And hearing Wohl referred to as Jacob. The person discreetly took a photo of Wohl, did a Google image search, and learned that Klein was actually Wohl. But, I mean, it's like high comedy or low comedy. Some kind of comedy. Walking around the office and they're like, hey, Jacob, I mean, Jay Klein. I mean, it's as dumb as could possibly be. The other former employees learned of Klein's true identity after different colleagues told them that he was Wohl. That'll do it. 3 of the former employees also said that Berkman or others at the company would sometimes slip up and call Jay Klein Jacob by accident. And those former employees told Politico that they also viewed pictures and videos of Wohl and Berkman online to verify their true identities. For example, Berkman appeared in an episode of the Netflix docuseries Web of Make-Believe about the Seth Rich murder. The former employees said that their former colleague was definitely the same man. I mean, that's got to be disconcerting. The former employees were granted anonymity to avoid professional repercussions for being associated with the firm and because they were worried about retaliation from Wohl and Berkman. Wohl did not respond to a request for comment when Politico called a phone number Berkman listed on lobbying forms and asked if he was Bill Sanders. He asked who was calling and then said, how can I help you? Trying to carry out the ruse. After a reporter identified himself, Berkman ended the call. The company did not answer questions sent to a Lobbymatic email address about why Wohl and Berkman had used pseudonyms. It said in a statement, Lobbymatic is a superb AI software with unmatched capabilities and is quickly winning one blue-chip customer after another. It added, without providing specifics, we deliver massive value to customers who include some of the most prestigious lobbying firms and corporate government relations offices in Washington, D.C. The earlier telecom fraud was not the only misdeed Wohl and Berkman have engaged in. You need a reminder. In 2020, the two hired actors. They were, of course, merely acting. Yes, that's right, and we have the full clip somewhere about that. Where's the old good long acting clip? Oh well, not immediately. Oh, there we go.
Brilliant! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone remembers that, if you're older than 50. Anyway, in 2020, they hired actors to stage fake FBI raids on Berkman's house. I think I missed this one. And tricked the Washington Post into writing up the phony incident. Wohl used the Klein surname in that incident, too. How do you like that? He's already been there. The year before, I should read about that one. Wohl was charged in California for selling an unregistered security. I thought that was a fairly serious crime and would land you in federal prison, but I guess not. He pled guilty to 4 felony counts and was sentenced to 2 years of probation, according to court records in Riverside County. And then, but don't you get in trouble if you're on probation and then you commit more crimes? I feel like that is a thing that happens. But again, this all has, in addition to the politics of it, it's another one of those, why do you work stories? Like, what am I doing working on things or trying to follow laws? I was pretty sure that this all would come crashing down on you if you just did felony after felony after felony, fraud after fraud after fraud. But I guess not, and I guess that's why they continue to do it. It's a little disconcerting. Wohl and Berkman drew attention a few years ago by trying to frame multiple public figures, including former special counsel Robert Mueller and current Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, for sexual assaults. They conducted other outlandish smear campaigns, including hiring a woman to say that Anthony Fauci had assaulted her, and allegedly stealing a USAID employee's phone and sending out tweets blasting the foreign aid agency as anti-Christian. Among the conspiracy theories that Wohl has pushed include saying in 2020 that Biden had tested positive for COVID and would die in 30 days, and that Senator Elizabeth Warren had a relationship with a former Marine, and that Vice President Kamala Harris wasn't eligible to run for president in the 2020 cycle. I mean, what are these guys doing out? Why are they free to do things at all? Why aren't they in jail? I don't understand. Wohl and Berkman's company asserts on its website that it helps clients massively increase your efficiency and effectiveness by harnessing the power of artificial intelligence. Its website claims that its technology can monitor and get readouts on Capitol Hill hearings, figure out which lawmakers are important on certain issues, and schedule meetings with them or petition them. I mean, how do you figure out who's important? You go to the website of the committee and look at the lineup. That's who's important. Look who's at the top. That's the chairperson. That's the most important guy. Who's at the top of the list for the minority? Ranking minority member. I mean, you don't need AI for this, but people are dumb and they, whatever. Toyota spokesperson Zachary Reed said a person from Lobbymatic represented himself as Jay Klein. The company's 3-month trial expired last month, he said. I mean, they actually signed up. Toyota said yes. I don't know whether it was free, but why say yes to anybody? Like, what do we need you for? Lantheus spokesperson Linda Lennox said that a former employee for the company initiated a trial subscription, but that Lantheus didn't use the platform and let the trial expire after 3 months. Lennox called the Lobbymatic website and its employees that they dealt with nondescript, and it was unaware of their backgrounds. We were intrigued by the advertised potential of Lobbymatic and had a limited number of employees test out the service to track legislation and summarize congressional hearings, Jeff Navin, a co-founder of Boundary Stone Partners, said in a statement. We quickly determined that the tool did not work and terminated our contract 2 months ago. At no point did BSP share any company information with Lobbymatic, nor did we know of Wohl or Berkman's affiliation with Lobbymatic. Wohl and Berkman often spend time in Washington area bars and cigar clubs where lobbyists hang out and try to drum up business, according to the former employees. Berkman has a separate lobbying firm, J.M. Berkman and Associates, that represents more than 24 clients, which is amazing that that still happens, none of which are well-known companies. Along with Berkman, Wohl is registered for a number of the clients as well. A photo, I guess that's how they make money. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the clients are and whether they're just shell groups that billionaires send them money through. A photo obtained by Politico shows Wohl in a Lobbymatic office with 3 computer screens, including one with feeds of security cameras monitoring entrances to the offices, 2 desk phones, and a closet full of dress shirts. The photo was verified by geolocation data, pinning it to the firm's McLean, Virginia office. It's not cheap, the office space there. The first former employee recounted several occasions in which Wohl would enter the building of a potential client and be asked by security for ID. He would then step off to the side and pretend to be on his phone. If confronted, Wohl would say he had forgotten his ID or left it in the car. In one case, the company appears to have made a high-ranking Lobbymatic employee made her up out of thin air. There's the Pat Smith. This I enjoyed. Pat Smith was VP of Growth. She was identified as the blonde-haired woman. This is really blatant. I love this admission here, too. The blonde-haired woman has hundreds of LinkedIn connections, including top lobbyists at PepsiCo, Merck, GM, and United Health Group. People are linking to someone who doesn't even exist. But, you get one invitation, and yeah, okay, sure, why not? And then, of course, there's this. Wald told 3 of the former employees that the person doesn't exist and that he created her because the best way to get an introduction in any company anywhere was to use an attractive blonde. I mean, that's pretty upfront, he's being with these guys. We made her up, and we made her a picture, and we made her an attractive blonde, and guess what? It worked. She has hundreds of LinkedIn connections and doesn't even exist. People get an invitation, they say, who is it? They see an attractive blonde. Sure, fine. Pat Smith has even written stories to promote the company on LinkedIn and Medium. One from October was titled, "An AI Arms Race is Coming to K Street. Will you adapt or be left behind?" Besides the job at Lobbymatic, her profile lists no previous employment history or education. You could make that up. Why didn't they do it? The first former employee said when they were hired, they were told to complete a 133-page security intake form that was similar to the SF-86 form that government employees are often required to fill out. Sections included other names used, like, aliases, police records, foreign contacts, travel, psychological and emotional health, drug and alcohol use. The former employee said they didn't fill it out, though, because they found it a little odd. The company's head of security, Steve Eschhawks, I don't know how you pronounce that, but told the former employee that the filled out documents were kept in manila folders in the safe of his house. The computer on his desk had feeds to cameras monitoring the entrance of the office, and according to a picture of his desk, no response for a request for comment from there. It goes on for some time after that. We won't get all the way through it because it's getting late. In fact, we're way late in getting the hell out of here. I'm sorry. Apologies to Justice for holding up the start of the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, but you get the idea. There's just a lot of detail about how far they're going to just fake everything. And it's kind of upsetting. In the grand scheme of things, it won't matter very much, but you just can't figure out how these guys get to just pull scam after scam, fraud after fraud, felony after felony, and are just turned loose to run amok in McLean, Virginia, and rent office space and hire people. Hire people! How can you hire anybody? I don't understand any of this. Where can I get some of this money? I assume it's just all coming from billionaires. Maybe I'll look and see whether there's any sense at all to or any hints as to which rich people might just be funneling the money as fake clients of J.M. Berkman and Associates. That's got to be it, I guess. Anyway, like I said, time to hand things over to Justice Putnam for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Let's let you know what's coming up today because we're wasting his time already. We might as well tell you what's new. Geez. Trump was swatted down. Well, not swatted, but swatted down by a judge in his New York case. He was looking to transfer his hush money case at this late stage. He's awaiting sentencing in 2 weeks. He wanted to transfer it to federal court. They said, no, the hell with that. Remember, sentencing in 2 weeks. 2 days prior to that, the 16th, the judge in that case decides what to do with the SCOTUS decision and whether or not to dismiss anything prior to sentencing.
Waldman.
There's more, of course, on the rest of the menu for today. After raiding the homes of elderly Latino Democratic election volunteers, Texas MAGA Attorney General Ken Paxton now threatening Democratic-leaning counties not to mail out voter registration forms. The people have been looking to investigate him. He's just doubling down. Damn. Stay tuned.